Put on a Ike mini flip.
It's a little out of that. Good one on a frog.
Oh my gosh, look how big his mouth is. To be a 4-pounder, if that thing had a gut, that's like a 5 or a 6.
All right, everybody. I want to thank y'all for tuning in to One Objective. Guys, we got a good show lined up for y'all. We got Chase Clarke coming on, and he's going to be talking about his Bassmaster Open win and what, his path is looking like for the rest of this year and fishing more opens, shall I say. And we're going to kind of dig in a little bit on, who he is. And so you guys get to know him and kind of understand where he's from and, what he's looking for as a goal, which we know that fishing the opens, a lot of guys that fish the opens are trying to make the EQ qualifying event. So, I think he's going to have a good chance of punching his ticket there. But anyways, we're going to have him on here in just a little bit. But first off, I want to thank all of our sponsors. We've got some really great sponsors that has helped us out over the years and has been phenomenal support with, some giveaways and rigging and all that stuff. So first off, I want to thank Waterland Sunglasses. Got a pair right here on my head. I love their sunglasses. We've had a lot of success with them. I like their Millikens. I like their bed fishers. They've got some phenomenal lenses, different frames, anything you need, even towels to clean your glasses with, and nice apparel. So make sure you go check them out. Also, help the channel out. You can go and click the description below. We should have a link down there for you to go save yourself 15% on your order. Also, I want to thank Missile Baits. Been great supporters of us since the beginning of this show. I can't thank John and Byron and all of them enough, and Alex and all of them. I really want to thank all of them guys for really helping us out with, all the support they have with, helping push our show and our YouTube channel and all that stuff. They've been great support. So also want to thank Amped Outdoors. We've been running their batteries in our kayaks. We've been running them in our bass boats. So we got them in our, our kayak battery box. I've used that several times for power outages and stuff, charging cell phones. Also having it to where I can run other odd and end things to get a little bit of power, like inverters and stuff off of them. So I've used the Amped batteries a lot and not had 1 minute issue with any of them. And also with Bluetooth capabilities, you can check your charge with them on your cell phone. So if you're in the house and you want to make sure everything's charging good on your bass boat or your kayak, making sure everything's going to be good and charged, you got the ability. You can just download the app on your phone and you can keep an eye on them through the night and all that stuff. So make sure you go check out Amped Outdoors as well. Also, I want to thank Rocky Boots. They've come on board with us this year. I meant to say that in the last show. Totally forgot. I want to thank Rocky Boots for coming on board with us. We love hunting, and we also, hunting and fishing, man, Rocky Boots has got you covered, basically. I mean, they got anything from hiking boots to hunting boots to water shoes, whatever you need, tennis shoes, they got you covered. So make sure you go check out Rocky Boots as well. So, but before we get Chase on, just want to kind of go over a few things real quick, guys. If you haven't, make sure you go check out oneobjectivebf.com. That's where all our kayak and bass boat accessories are. I can't thank all of our great customers enough. We've had some really great customers. So I appreciate all that has supported us. Me and James, a lot of people don't understand that, we get a lot of comments about us being some big business, and people don't understand we're still small time. It's just me and James doing it all, unless our kids come in and help us with shipping or something like that. But it's still family operated kind of business. It's me and James's family has done a lot. Our families have helped us a lot to keep this thing going, and so we don't get so far behind and all that stuff. So, but like I say, we're still small business. We're no big corporation. We're working at a small shop. So make sure you go check us out for your rigging. We try to have the best customer service we could possibly give. And I feel like that we got some of the best out there. Like I said, we got some of the best customers in the world out there. And I just appreciate all you guys. So make sure you go check out oneobjectivebf.com. And then also check out our One Objective Outdoors channel, which is probably where you're watching us at. And then also check out our One Objective Bass Fishing channel as well. The outdoor channel is where all the fishing stuff's at. I know it sounds kind of funny, but that the bass fishing side was just kind of getting cluttered up with installs and rigging videos, stuff like that. So we're gonna have an area where you guys can kind of see behind the scenes what we do other than business. So Make sure you go check out both channels and hit the subscribe button on both of those. So, anyways, let's go ahead and get Chase Clarke on and see how he won this thing. All right, Chase, I want to thank you for joining me tonight. I know you are busy. You got a lot of fishing you've been taking care of and getting ready for the next Open and all that. And I want to congratulate you on your win at Clarksville. I mean, that was phenomenal to watch it on live and just see how it all went down. But to have you on and talk about it, man, I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. That was a special week. I mean, it's still kind of is all sinking in, and the Classic for 2026 just got announced today. So that was a little bit surreal seeing that and being like, I'm actually going to fish it. I'm going to get to go to that one.
Yeah.
And not only go as just a fan and walk around the expo, but to actually get to compete. I mean, it's a dream come true. And I think everybody who's ever caught a bass probably dreams of that event. So it's unbelievable.
Absolutely. And for a lot of the people that don't, I want to get everybody to have a chance to get to know you and who you are and where you come from. But a lot of people don't understand like some of the changes that's happened with the Opens this year, where, having to fish Opens and the qualify for the EQs, but fishing to make the Classic, you had to win an event and then you got to fish a few more events, right?
That's correct. So in order to qualify for the Classic through the Opens, first you have to win, but then in addition to that, you have to complete a full division. And that division could be Division 1, which is basically like the Easterns for this year's Open schedule. And then there's Division 2, which is kind of like the Centrals. They go to like Rayburn, which we go there next week, actually. I'm fishing both of them. But that one's like Rayburn, Kentucky Lake, Norfolk, and Leech. So kind of straight line right up the middle of the country. And then also you can get into the Classic through the Opens if you win an EQ event. But that's also another way for Elite Series guys to get in as well, because if they don't qualify through the elite points, then they can fish the EQs in the fall and get in that way, just like we could if we were not to win one of the regular season events.
Mm-hmm.
Then those EQ events in the fall also count for the Classic too.
I got you. And then to make the EQ events, what do you have to qualify in points from each division?
So you have to be top 50 in points from either division.
Okay.
You could be dead last in one division, but if you're top 50 in the other one, then you're good to go. And a lot of guys, I think, are only fishing one too. So,
yeah, and that's what I was going to ask you was, is coming into this, you get some guys that fish the Opens, they just want to fish an event here or there, and really don't have the desire to try to make the elites. But is that what you're trying to go for? You're trying to qualify for the elites, or?
Absolutely, yeah. That's definitely my number one goal, is to get to the Elite Series. And then also, I mean, I love fishing and I love learning everywhere I go. And I feel like my best opportunity to get to the elites is to continue learning and experiencing all these different bodies of water across the country, making me more versatile.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's really going to help fishing in the fall too. I don't fish too much in the fall, but at least in my past, but I have throughout college and stuff when I was at Auburn. And I don't know. It's weird because this year with the two divisions, it's not like as strong as a gauntlet as it was the past 2 years that I did it. So this is my third year on the EQs, and then having the 0.0, I'm not sure how I feel about it yet, but the schedule is pretty good. So I'm pretty excited about it if I get to qualify. So yeah.
Yeah, I think I do like how they're doing it this year, but it was pretty cool to see also to fish all 9 events and make, it was a double-edged sword because it was really hard for some to even take that kind of time to fish 9 events to, make it into points, especially guys at work and all that as well. So I think what they're doing here, it gets it kind of back to the guys that work a full-time job too, as well, to try to have a chance, to make it. But it's still a difficult schedule. You know what I mean? It still takes a lot of time to do what you guys do.
Oh, the schedule is still definitely hard. The part that I'm not so sure about is at the 0.0, because I feel like after competing in the last 2 years where it was just straight EQs from the first tournament of the year, I feel like nobody who competed really had a doubt that those guys who made the top 9 in both of those 2 years were the absolute best. And I think you're able to see that from the rookies from the first year they did it. And then I think you're going to see it again this year with the guys like Cody Meyer, Dakota Eber, Easton. I mean, the rookie classes are just getting stronger and stronger. And not to take away from what's going to happen this fall with 10 guys instead of 9 qualifying at the end of the EQs because they added a spot.
Yeah.
So not to take away from that, but it is a little bit different only having it be 3 tournaments, even though you still technically have to qualify. I don't know. It's different.
Yeah.
Good, bad, and, I'm not sure yet, but it's different for sure.
It's definitely Bass has tried to make some changes and trying to make it. I don't know. I don't know what they're trying to make it difficult, or they're trying to make it easier, or I don't know what they're thinking, or they're always changing the process. And I think it's good, but it's also kind of difficult too for the guys that are coming in the following year. Like, well, what's the process this time? And normally they'll keep it the same for a while. Like when they did the EQs, I mean, it ain't changed in a while before, and then they did the EQ system. You know what I mean?
Right.
Where they did that. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like it, but there, like I say, there is some concerns. I mean, I don't fish it, but I follow along. I'm a big fan of it and seeing it's kind of like watching college football, NFL football. I feel like the college football, the guys play harder, you know what I mean? Because they're trying to make it to the NFL. So I feel like these guys work I'm not saying elites don't work hard, but I feel like they work really hard in these opens to try to make it,
Oh, there's no question. I pre-practice a little bit myself. And seems like everywhere that I go, I ended up seeing a couple wrap boats running around the lake, pretty much all over the country, wherever I end up showing up to pre-practice. And going back just real quick to the EQ stuff, it's another note on that. I know Bassmaster every year when they do the EQ stuff, at least the past couple years, was, well, how is the working man, so to speak, going to make it? Well, this year, I think that definitely it's more doable for the quote unquote working man, but also you got to realize that in the EQs, the entry fees are $1,500 higher per tournament. So financially, it's pretty similar. Now there's a little bit less travel, but financially the entry fees are a little bit higher. So that's just another note. You might have to take less time off of work with the new schedule, but you're also paying a higher entry fee. So I guess it kind of depends on how much you make, but
yeah. And how much vacation time you got. And, because, that's what I was telling me and my buddy was talking one time. I was like, they still call it, try to make it better for the working man, but I'm still like, man, you got to have a job where you have a lot of or own your own business. You know what I mean? And
right.
To make it to work. So, and you see a lot of that, guys that are elite pros or open guys, they own their own business, or, like Justin Hamner, for instance. I mean, he's cutting his grass, you know what I mean? He's cutting grass. He has his own business. It's a lot of them guys you see that have their own business that kind of work into that. So, but let's get to know you a little bit. I know it says on your thing that you're from Virginia, but you're in Alabama right now. You living in Alabama now, right?
I do. So I currently live in Auburn, but I am from Virginia Beach. So after I grew up in Virginia Beach all throughout high school and stuff. And then when I graduated high school, I went to Auburn University for 4 years and was on the Auburn fishing team throughout my time at school there. And once I graduated, I just really, really like the area down here. It's very central. There's a lot of diverse fisheries all around Auburn University. The people, I've got a lot of friends, a lot of connections down here. And also for travel, for the most part, Auburn's a lot more central than Virginia Beach. So it just kind of made sense fishing full time now to just stay down here.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that because I fished we fished a lot of the bass kayak stuff for a while, and the people that lived in Alabama, Alabama, Tennessee, all that stuff, it seemed like it was a little easier for them, to get around. Like I'm from Virginia as well. I'm from Bedford area, and we got a shop down here in Cortland, Virginia, which we're about an hour west of Virginia Beach. And but yeah, traveling from these areas, it's like you got to make a trip out to Texas or Tennessee, all them, them play. It just takes a good while to get to any of them.
Oh yeah, and at the beach, it's like you can. Well, first off, if you need to go south, you got to just tack an hour and 45 minutes straight onto the drive, because that's how long it takes to get to I-95 or I-85. So you just got to add that plus traffic getting over the high rise there in Norfolk or Hampton, wherever the high rise is. Or if you go north, you could go through Maryland. But if you have to go through DC, whatever road that is that goes up towards Potomac and towards DC, that's just misery. Even though it is fairly convenient to go north from Virginia Beach, most of our tournaments aren't that direction. I mean, we have 2 up there this year, but we didn't have any last year. So Auburn just is way more central, cuts down on cost living down here because it's a cheaper area to live. And then, like I said, with gas and travel, it's just a lot easier.
Yeah. Yep. I could fully understand. I mean, you see a lot of guys that make the elites or that fish the opens. It's a lot of people that are trying to pursue the professional fishing that do pick up and move to, like, I mean, look how many pros live on Gunnersville.
No, I know.
I mean, like, everybody's moved there, so it's centralized. So, but so you've been basically fishing professionally now since you've gotten out of college. What did you major in college? Like for like a plan B if things don't work out.
So I majored in business administration, and what that is, it's basically a degree that covers parts of every single business major that Auburn has to offer. So supply chain, marketing, finance, economics, business administration. Basically, you have to take classes in all of them. So there's no specialty, but I'm kind of a small business guy. My parents run a small business back in Virginia Beach. So I kind of wanted to have a general idea of, how to run a small business in case that's where my future led me. So that was my backup plan. And then also it helps with what I'm doing now too. Even though not necessarily with the fishing, but definitely still with the communicating and sponsors, and then just the business side of things. Cause that's something behind the curtain, so to speak, that not everybody sees with doing this. So it takes a lot of work to get the names on your jerseys and wraps, and then actually be able to afford to go out there and compete. So that's a big part of it too.
Yeah, absolutely. And you got to think about it. Fishing professionally, you're your own brand, basically. You know what I mean? Your own business. It's like a small business, basically. So you're kind of understanding how all that works and moving money and how to get money here and there. And like I said, marketing is the biggest thing. You know what I mean? When it comes to fishing. And that's something a lot of people don't understand on the backside is, like, they all want to go fishing, but they don't understand that the sponsor deal, how hard you work off the water can result in how much time you can put on the water,
Right. I think I'm pretty good at the marketing stuff. It's the social media stuff, which actually kind of goes hand in hand with marketing, that I'm still working on every day. And I really wish I would have done more of that in college instead of focused on the fishing. I wish I would have done a little bit more of both, but.
Oh yeah.
But
it all comes with time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's kind of dig into Clark's Hill there and kind of talk about your practice. I mean, you had a great finish. I mean, you won the daggone tournament. 2-day event. It was shortened because of weather, right? Didn't y'all have a weather delay or weather shortage?
It was. So the 3rd day of practice, we had that massive snowstorm that we got here in the South move in to the Clark's Hill area. And then, so Wednesday was our off day, which that's new for this year's Opens and EQs, is instead of 4.5 days of practice, we have an off day with 3 days of practice. So we had that off day, and it was started, I think the snow ended that morning sometime during the off day, and then it started to melt, but it was melting really, really slow, and then still getting well below freezing every night. So what happened was Clark's Hill it's close to Augusta, but there's a lot of back roads around the lake. And so Hank determined, I guess, that, a lot of people would be staying in Verbos and Airbnbs all over, and the ice just wasn't thawed enough to take us fishing. And the roads were okay, but if one person gets in a wreck on the way to the ramp because Hank made the call to go fishing, then that's kind of, I guess he would feel like that would be on him.
Yeah.
And I think it was the right call, because we stayed off one of those back roads, and it wasn't bad, but if you were driving too fast or didn't have maybe the right vehicle, then it definitely could have potentially ended bad.
Yeah. Yeah. And down south, they don't really treat the roads. I don't know about there, but I know a lot of spots down south, they don't treat the roads good. They don't have the equipment, to take care of all that stuff. So,
Yeah.
So when things happen, it kind of shuts things down a little bit the further south you go. It ain't like Virginia and all that. So, but so kind of talking about your practice, how did your practice go? Did you feel like you were on the winning fish, or because I hear a lot of guys say I had a bad practice, but then they win a tournament or have a good tournament,
Yeah. So I did not see the wind coming at all. I didn't know that I would catch that type of weight, and I kind of knew I was around some better quality, but not to the extent that not to the extent of what the weights showed when I weighed in each day. So my first day of practice, I caught 18 pounds, and that was the best day of practice that I had out of all 3 days. And the one thing that kind of keyed me in was I caught a 7-pounder that day. And it's kind of a funny story, actually, of how that happened. So I put in at the ramp, and it was really warm that day. It was like 60 something in the morning. So there was fog all over the lake, and I was running a little bit late, kind of in a hurry, and put the boat in the water around 7:30 or so. And then everybody was kind of just hanging out, taking their time, just because you couldn't really see. And then I guess a little patch of fog had lifted by the ramp. Well, I finally get going, and I'm running down the lake, and then I guess I just ended up catching the fog, and I had my lights on, but then it just got to where I really, really just couldn't see safely in front of me to drive the boat on pad. So I figured, well, let me just stop here. And so I literally stopped in the middle of the lake and then just idled all the way to the shoreline, probably a half a mile, and there was a ditch right there. And I figured, well, let me just go in there and wait for this fog to lift and just kind of start looking around at some different things. Well, I did that, and probably just a couple minutes after putting the trolling motor down, I caught like a 3.5-pound spot.
Oh, wow.
Spotted bass. And I was like, that's something to note. And then I just kind of tucked that in the back pocket and kept on going down the shoreline. And I ended up finding a brush pile. And the only reason I found it is actually because there was some birds diving. And I saw a couple of fish come up schooling. And I'm like, well, let me just go look over there. So I took my NBT screen over there and live scope, found the brush pile, and I saw there was a few fish on it. I made one cast over there and caught a 7-pounder. And there was 5 fish in that group. So I caught one of them. It was the 7. So there was 4 left in that group. And I was just kind of like, that's something good to note. But first day of practice, I'm sure a bunch of people will come in here. And, I proceeded to go onto the back of the ditch and caught a couple small ones, a couple 2-pounders, a couple spotted bass, and then just went on about my day. And then, I caught a few fish here and there throughout the rest of the day, ended up with 18 pounds. The next day, I had 14 pounds, I believe, in a different part of the lake doing pretty similar stuff. So I was kind of thinking I kind of got a little bit of something going. I wasn't getting many bites, though, was the thing. And the fish I was seeing were relatively hard to catch. And I knew where they were. Like, I could see them sitting in the ditches. I kind of figured that they were getting really tight to the bottom in the ditches after 9, 10 o'clock. And then they would have to still be suspended a little bit in order to get them to bite, at least for me. And then I was fishing a lot of brush and structure, just kind of looking for that stuff, hodgepodging around. And then the last day of practice, I had 12 pounds. Still trying to work on the pattern. I ended up with 12 pounds. So at that point, practice is over. The snow's moved in. And I'm thinking to myself, it's with the bites that I was getting. I had the one big bite and I caught like a 4-pounder. So those were my two biggest fish throughout the week of practice, the 7 and the 4. And thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, well, if I can catch or get 10 or 11 bites during the first day, second day, each day of the tournament, then I could potentially have a good bag. And that bag could be anywhere from 13 to maybe 16 pounds is kind of what I'm thinking. And there hasn't been an open or like a big tournament, professional level tournament on Clark's Hill in a long time. So we really don't know what the weight is going to be for a check. And that's kind of when you're back at the house with all your roommates and stuff, you're kind of talking, what do you think it's going to take? And we kind of thought it was going to take 14 a day or 13 and a half a day to get paid. Because that's the goal, to get paid, get your money back, move to the next one, collect your points, make it to the EQs. So anyway, I'm like, oh, I kind of think I could do that. Well, the first day of the tournament rolled around and I went back to my place that I found that 7 the first day. So at this point, 5 days have gone by and I haven't been back. And I found it literally the first few minutes, first day of practice, haven't been back since. Well, I just decided I'd go over there and start because I knew the ditch itself was pretty productive, not just the pile. I saw the 4 fish that I'd seen with the big one, with the 7, still on the brush pile when I pulled in there. I couldn't get them to bite though. And I was like, well, let me just ease onto the back and then come back out and try them. Well, on the way to the back, I caught one like 3 3/4. And then in the very back, I caught one like 5 1/2. And I'm like, okay, that's a welcome surprise. And then, you catch a 5 1/2 like that early and that quick, plus another good fish, and you're thinking that it's only going to take 14 to get a check, then you can get to kind of relax a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got back to the pile, I just kind of took my time, and it took me about 15 or 20 minutes actually of throwing at the fish before I finally tricked one of them or triggered them to bite, whichever one it was. I don't know if it was a reaction or they just got pissed off at it. I'm not sure. But I got one of them to bite, and that was a 6-pounder. So that's, at that point, 2 over 6 pounds that I've caught out of a group of 5. Couldn't get another one to bite, and then ran around a little bit the rest of the day. I had one other spot. It was kind of like a clay point, and I caught a 4 and a 6 1/2 on that, and then caught a few other fish throughout the day. But I kind of laid off of them after around 11:30, 12 o'clock, and just left as much stuff as I could for day 2. And honestly, I did not know that I had as much weight as I did. I thought I had like 22, 23. But those big ones, if they're that big, kind of one of my pet peeves is people will put a coal ring on one that's like 5+. I mean, unless you're at like Rayburn or Fork, which you're not allowed to put in live oak Fork anyway. But basically, very, very few places do you need to put a coal ring on a 5+.
Yeah.
So I didn't, or weigh them. Like in my mind, if I weigh one that's over 5, then I'm just wasting a cast essentially.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't really matter if I'm not going to cull him. I don't need to know how much he weighs.
Yeah.
So I was actually really shocked at how much weight I had. And then the second day I backed it up with 21 1/2. And man, what a blessed week it was. It was special. It was special.
Do you think the weather, when all that snow came in, do you think that helped pull those bigger ones up? Or do you feel like it affected it at all?
That's a good question. I really don't think it did. I think they were kind of in their January type pattern, winter, where they're going to be for their winter haunts, in that mode already. So I really don't think the cold necessarily pushed them back or definitely didn't pull fish up, because there wasn't a warming trend anywhere around the week of the tournament. The weather was pretty consistent and it was relatively cold. Now they were biting really, really good the first day of practice when it was pretty warm. Like the water temp was like 50 53-ish, 52, I want to say, the first day of practice. And then by the tournament rolled around, it was 46, 47. So the water temperature dropped a lot. But with that, I was catching most of my fish deep. So even though I would go to the backs of the ditches, they were still deep. So I don't really think it affected them. Now, if it was a warming trend and that was like a heat wave instead of a snowstorm, I think that would have changed everything.
Yeah. And going into the second day when you caught your 21 pounds, I mean, is there a point where you're like, man, I think I won this thing? Or is there a fish that when you caught it, you're like, I think I won this? Or was you still kind of skeptical coming in, after you had a good second day as well?
So no, the second day actually was a very trying day for me. I started off with a bang, so to speak. In the morning, I caught a 6.2 in like the first 30 minutes, which would be the third over 6 pounds that I caught out of that group of 5. So I caught 3 out of the 5 of them, and 3 of them were over 6 pounds out of one group of fish. And when stuff like that happens, I mean, that morning I was kind of thinking to myself, if you're going to have something like this happen, or you just keep catching these big ones, then you're just, I mean, that's what it takes to win tournaments, especially against that caliber of anglers and that size of a field. You just have to kind of have those magic moments. And I kind of feel like you can see that looking back in history over a lot of guys, different wins and stuff.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, after that was the first 30 minutes. I didn't catch my second keeper until like 10:30 or 10 o'clock. So I went about 3 hours without even getting a bite. And like I was talking about earlier, you catch a big one, it kind of lets you settle down. But at that point, I was kind of thinking, okay, I need to start transitioning to some spotted bass stuff and, try to get a little bit of a limit going here. Well, I did that. I caught one like right under 3 pounds, like my third or fourth place I hit doing that. And then that kind of started to settle me back down a little bit. I'm like, okay, well, now I got, close to 9 pounds, and that means they have to catch 13. I'm like, all right, I need 3 more. Well, then the next place I go, I caught another one like 6. And then that's kind of when the same feelings about, man, stuff like this doesn't happen started to come back in. So that was 3 fish for probably 15. And then I went like 3 more places in a row, just back to back to back, and filled out my limit. Or maybe it was 2 more places in a row, something like that. And I filled out my limit. And then I had all of my weight. Well, I culled one time, had all that weight by 12:30, 1 o'clock at the latest. I think 12:30. Ran around the rest of the day. And I was a late boat number the second day, so that also kind of helped settle me down because I knew I had plenty of time, essentially. Mm-hmm. Had all that weight by 12:30, and then caught one about 4 pounds right before I weighed in.
Oh, wow.
But even then, the rest of the day, I was thinking I need one more. I need a 4-pounder. I thought my goal was 20 pounds. I felt like if I could catch 20 pounds, then I would have done my job. And if they beat me, they beat me, essentially.
Yeah.
And my goal was to catch 20. And I didn't know I had that because if you followed around Bass Track, or any of your listeners who are looking at Bass Track, I think mine said 18-12.
Yeah, it was 18 something.
Yeah, but that's also with two big ones that I just caught them, put them in the box, didn't weigh them. I was weighing my smaller ones, but didn't weigh those big ones. And then I called again at the end of the day, and that was the same deal. I knew he was going to be a beneficial fish, so I just kind of tossed him in there and got rid of the smallest one. But I didn't know Blaine either. Blaine Bunny was the guy who finished second, and I can't remember who was in third after day 1. But both of those guys, second and third, had 22 pounds. And I thought both of them were locals. So all of the championship day, I'm thinking, what a beautiful day, perfect wind, sunny, Herring Lake. These locals are going to run around here and just really catch them because it's just perfect conditions. Because I didn't know who the guys were. I'd never met them personally. So that kind of had me a little bit on edge all day. Turns out, I think Blaine was from Oklahoma and the other guy was from Tennessee or something, though.
Yeah. That's going in, and you're in the weigh-in line. I mean, what are you? I know guys talk, you know what I mean, but I mean, is anybody saying much what they got? I mean, what are you feeling right before they call you up on stage?
Yeah, so I brought my fish up there, and I went to get in line with everybody else, and the weighmaster said, no, you're not allowed to be in line with everybody else. You're coming to the back. So he took me behind the stage and put my fish in like an isolated kind of holding area, and I just had to sit there and wait for everybody else to weigh in, which wasn't too bad because I was one of the later flights anyway. But I didn't look at Bass Track. I didn't talk to anybody. I just kind of sat there just thinking, I mean, I talked to my family. All of them were, my family surprised me at the weigh-in and talking to my friends and stuff. But I didn't look at Bass Track, and nobody said what the other guys had weighed in. So I'm just kind of taking it in as Hank is bringing up the guys, the weigh-ins going on. Well, finally, Blaine was in second, and Hank brought him up to sit in the hot seat and said that his total was like 41 pounds or something. And I'm like, okay. But at that point, I've got so many nerves, like my brain wasn't working right. I couldn't do the math on what I needed. And I'm thinking, well, if I got 18, 19 pounds, it'll be kind of close. Well, then when I walked on stage, Hank said, you need 15.7 to take the lead. And then when I saw that 15 pounds on there, I was like, I've had that since 1 o'clock. And that's before he announced it. That's kind of when it started clicking. I'm like, I won. And just a special moment and a week that I'll never forget. I'm just so thankful, man. I've worked ever since I was a little kid. I won my very first tournament in 2013 fishing with my dad when I was in the 6th grade. And then watching guys like Jordan Lee, one of our famous Auburn grads who's won a couple classics, I believe, watching guys like him growing up, and some of the guys I went to school with, Logan Parks, Tucker Smith, just how dominant they are. It helps motivate you. It helps you work harder. And the other thing, too, is that it shows you a path of guys that really aren't that different than you doing and accomplishing the same goals that you want to in life. So that kind of helps also. And I just really honored to start the year off with that and to qualify for the Classic. It's a dream come true for me, no doubt about it.
Yeah, because that definitely takes the weight off your shoulders there, because now you got your Classic berth. Now you're going for the EQ qualification, which you're starting off good right now. I mean, leading points, you know what I mean? So
yep.
So you got a good start there. So if you can just put together a few good events, you're golden. So but what was some of a lot of guys that didn't pay attention to the live and all that stuff, what was the key baits for you for catching all your fish?
So I believe I caught every fish that I weighed in on a jig head minnow. But the key for me was first off, the jig head minnow was a greenfish tackle, bad little shad jig head. And I'll tell you why that specific jig head is key in just a minute. But I was using a 3/16 ounce, a 1/4 ounce, and a 3/8 ounce. So I was using 3 different sizes, and I weighed fish in on every single size. The key was watching on my NBT where they were set up in the water column, how high they were, if they were tight to the bottom, if they were suspended on the cover, if they were at the bottom of the cover, if they were following a ball of herring or I guess a pod of herring or something like that, how fast they were moving, the direction they were going, and then just choosing the right jig head to make a perfect presentation. The next part of that is a 3/0 hook. Greenfish tackle makes a 1/4 or not a quarter, a 1/0 and a 3/0 hook and all of their bad little shad heads. Well, I love the 1/0, but I typically only throw it on the 3-inch minnow, at least now, because I was throwing a 4-inch minnow, which is what I caught the 7 on, with the 3/0 hook. And I was kind of like, the hook looks a little big. And then I caught a 7-pounder on it, and I was like, wow, if I can get away with the bigger size hook, then it's kind of a no-brainer that I need to be throwing the bigger hook. And if you catch a 7-pounder, then you know you kind of got the right bait. So that kind of clued me into that. And then as the tournament progressed, I was just never really was interested in the 1/0 because of the quality I was catching. And I figured I need every little advantage I can get to put these fish in the boat. So I thought that 3/0 hook was really, really important. Because if you look at the live, or not the live, like the top 10 baits, you'll see a lot of guys with the smaller minnow heads.
Yeah.
And the other thing I thought was key too for me was throwing the Tennessee shad color. And then again, you'll see a lot of chrome, a lot of white, a lot of albino. The fish are super, super, super smart on these herring lakes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was throwing at 80 of them a day and only getting 10 or 11 to bite. So those little tiny details really seem to matter for me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy how that does happen. You know what I mean? Like just certain things with jerk baits. I've noted, I love throwing jerk baits a lot. And I've had stuff with, plain white, not catching on. You put a little orange on the belly and all of a sudden they start hitting. You know what I mean? Like just little small things you can do. And like I say, that's what makes it stand out more, especially if you're fishing in an area where you got a lot of people fishing,
Right.
like some of these pockets, you'll have 5, 6, 10 boats in there. You know what I mean? And you're trying to do something a little different. So, but yeah, no, that's good. That's what I was really wanting you to break down there, because like, I know people think, oh man, you got live scope and you just throw a minnow on and go out there and catch them. But it's still trying to figure out those small adjustments to get those bites.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, the people that say you just put the live scope on the boat and go out there and catch them. Well, that's true in only a couple places now, because the fish down in the South are so smart. I would say at a lake like St. Clair, we went to St. Clair last year for the EQs, and it was just absolutely incredible. And having that technology, I mean, if the sun was out, you could pretty much throw at them and they'd bite, except for the full upper 4 or 5 pounders, right? You wouldn't get all of those to bite, which is why there was a winner of the tournament. Not everybody had all the same weight, down the whole leaderboard. That's why some guys would have 25 pounds, because it's not just put the thing on there and you go win every tournament. Mm-hmm. But nonetheless, it is pretty easy live scoping in the North. I take that back. Not necessarily the North, but specifically Lake St. Clair. Just because that's firsthand experience for me. Because I know it's really, really hard at St. Lawrence and a lot of other places too. And I would imagine they're as hard as it is at Clark's Hill and Hartwell and Lake Lanier. These ultra clear bodies of water, they get smart so fast, and they get so much pressure. A couple years ago, this time of year, January, February, if you were throwing at them with a minnow, you were catching most of them. Yeah. And nowadays, that's just not the case. I mean, they are so smart, and I do it a lot. So I kind of have a little bit of firsthand experience with it for sure.
Oh yeah. I think the fishing's going to change a lot with live scope. I mean, I love it. I like using it. But I can tell how things have changed just on my local body of water, like certain things you got to change up sometimes, because they just will not touch anything that you have. But then, you talk to certain guys that you catch 14, 15 pounds, like say they catch 25, and you're like, what the crap? I seen you earlier. I seen you live scope. So I know you're doing something different. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, it is crazy. I mean, and like say, it's a lot of people, like we talked just a while ago. I mean, you can have the live scope, you can catch fish, but finding that better quality fish it takes some time to learn it.
Absolutely. And you also got to think of your level of skill with it last year, just like me. I think last year I was this good with it.
Mhm.
Well, right now, after doing it a lot more this winter, I mean, I'm significantly better. So if everybody is getting a little bit better with it each year and it's becoming less of the new thing, then people are being more efficient on the water every time they go fishing. They're showing people more, or the fish, more baits, more presentations. So they're just getting smarter. Now, there's always going to be guys that figure out how to catch them, figure out how to win tournaments. But the easiness, so to speak, of it is definitely been minimized over the past couple of years. There's no question about it.
Yeah. Now, kind of like I said, I appreciate you kind of going over your Clarke Hill win and going in depth with us on your baits and stuff. Want to kind of dig into two more questions with you, and then before I let you go, one of them is I know you love throwing live scope. Like I said, a lot of us like live scope, but what is your thoughts on how MLF did theirs into the NPFL with their rules with no live scope? And then Bass, they really don't have no rules except graph size and how many transducers you can have. But what are your thoughts on like how MLF is doing theirs? Would you like to see it kind of go to that where one period you can't? Granted, I know Bass doesn't have periods, so you kind of they'd have to figure out a different format with that. But do you like how MLF did that? Like with only one period you can use live scope and the rest is like actual fishing. You know what I mean? So I'll say casting and, trying to work a bite out. I mean, what do you think about that on the Major League Fishing stuff and all that?
Yeah, so I think they definitely took a chance doing something new and original, like they've done ever since MLF has started. They can make that work because they have the periods and they have the camera guys and the marshals and the people that weigh the fish, so they can police it the whole time. I think on the Bassmaster stuff, it would be a little bit harder to implement. But I think it's interesting, and apparently I've heard they've gotten really, really good reviews or viewership on that first tournament they had down there on Conroe, which is great. Super happy for that, and happy that people are enjoying watching it. I think you're going to really have to wait and see as the season goes on how their viewership actually changes and works, because everybody's always excited about the first professional tournament of the year, right? So that always skews the viewership, and I can guarantee that'll happen with the Bassmaster event down there on the St. John's, right? Everybody's going to be looking first elite of the year, and then they're going to go to Okeechobee and flip up biggins in the reeds after that, but they still have their live scope on their boat.
Mm-hmm.
So what's exactly is the reason that people are tuning in?
Yeah.
Now, would I like to see it for the Elite Series, that type of format? Definitely, I don't think I would with the every fish counts. But as far as the live scope goes, I think it's here to stay. But with that being said, I would like to see the Classic go to no live scope.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
No live scope, and if you want to take out side scan, down scan, and maps and everything else, maybe not the maps. Boats are pretty expensive nowadays. But everything else, I think that would be really, really unique.
Yeah,
and that would force people, if you're going to be the world champion or the best in the world, well, you got to get there with the scope. But then if you want to be the world championship or the world champion, you got to know how to catch them without it. So I think that's kind of what I would like to see.
I think that's a great idea, because what I envisioned is kind of going back to the Ray Scott era, where they just threw them on a plane and they didn't tell them where they were going. You know what I mean? So it's not that concept, but it's still like, okay, look, you know where the class can be at, but there's going to be no live scope, no practice with it, no nothing. You just go out there and you fish. You got your maps, and let's just see how you do it, and break it down. Now, I think that right there would kill it on viewership with the Classic. I think it would. I think it'd be awesome. I think the NPFL, I'm very curious to see how that goes with no live scope, and see their viewership with that. But you're right, though. I mean, that was the very first term of MLF. Everybody's gung-ho. They're waiting for that fishing season to start. And even with the opens, I mean, I was following along with that. Like, it's a lot of people that were watching that, you know what I mean? And
Oh yeah.
being the first bass event and seeing what the next round of rookies are going to be like in the elites, So I mean, it's a lot of people that are watching the opens more now, I think, than ever. And plus, it's easier too because Bass covers it a lot more. So,
Yep.
one more question for you. This is just a silly question, but do you have any superstitions? Like, are you one of them guys like I can't have a banana, or I got to wear these boxers, or I got to wear, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
what is your superstition, or do you have any at all?
I don't really have any big superstitions. I mean, I'll eat a banana any day of the week in practice. I don't typically put one in my boat for the tournament or eat one in the tournament. Not because, I think I'm superstitious about it, but I don't know. I just don't. I don't eat too much in the tournament.
Yeah.
Let's see. I will say that I wore the same underwear both days of Clark's Hill, first and second day. I was like, well, after catching basically 26 pounds, I'm not going to change a thing.
Yeah, can't change it up.
And I meant it all the way down to the underwear.
Yeah.
So,
no, that's funny. That's, there's certain things that get some people's heads, you know what I mean, in fishing. Like, it's because we all know that it's skill. There's also a good percentage of it you need luck, and everybody's don't want to change nothing up. They want to ruin their luck, and I know for me, for instance, if I catch a big fish for my first fish, that gets in my head because I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm not going to catch on the rest of the day. Like, it's happened to me a lot. So like when that happens now, I'm kind of like, oh man.
Yeah. I think a lot of it is putting yourself in position to have the right timing more than it is sometimes it's the bait for sure, but I think that is the most important thing. So if you can figure out a pattern, right, then you can run that pattern all over the lake all day long, and throughout a day you're going to put yourself in a position to have better timing throughout where they bite. So the guys that will count the individual strands of blue or orange on their jigs, I think if you put that jig in front of him when he's willing to bite, he's going to bite it whether it's completely orange or completely blue, So I'm not too superstitious. We're fishing for little tiny fish, and I think sometimes we give them more credit than they're worth. One of my friends on the Auburn team qualified for the Bassmasters Classic this year. He's going to Ray Roberts. He qualified through the nation. I've won a couple tournaments with him around here, just fishing locally, and I'm not kidding when I say he's got about 6 or 7 rods that he keeps in his boat. And he's full-time fisherman, fishes both divisions of the Opens. He fished the EQs last year. He qualified for the Classic. I mean, even John Cox would be another great example. Sometimes you can't overthink it. But then sometimes on the other end, on the other side of things, you got MLF's Brian Thrift, right? If every rod's not perfectly laid on that deck, then he's probably not going to get a bite.
He's got the neatest deck of anybody in professional fishermen.
No doubt.
All the time. I don't know how he does it. Mine's scattered everywhere. Yeah. Well, Chase, I really appreciate you taking the time, man, to come on and talk with me and talk about, your history getting into this, and then also you're breaking down Clark's Hill Lake and how you won it. I wish you all the luck, man, in your coming up Classic next year. And then in your open season, I love to see you make it to the EQs and make the Elite Series.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor to be on your show. And if any of your listeners want to go follow me on social media, I'd really appreciate it. It's CR Clarke on Instagram, and I'll be fishing Division 2, the first one of that next week at Sam Rayburn. So whether I'm on live or not, y'all check it out. And then I guess the Elite Series and MLF's got some more events coming up. So fishing season is in full swing. And thanks for having me. Good luck in your next tournament.
Well, I appreciate it, man. Thank you. And I'm going to put a link in the description to your social media outlets, and then that way they can go and follow you there. So make sure you go check him out and help him out with social media and give him a follow. All right, buddy. Well, I appreciate it, man. You have a good day.
Yes, sir. You too.
Thank you. All right, that was a good interview, man. I really appreciate talking with Chase. He's a very good rounded angler. You know, just kind of listening to him. I've kind of fought. I know some people that's known him and his dad that fished around Virginia, and just kind of followed along with him, and just, you know, like I say, I was looking forward to see how he did in the opens, and like I say, he's got a good start. So. But other than that, guys, I hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, please hit this thumbs up, hit the like button. Also, hit that subscribe button. We just started our I said we just started. One Objective Outdoors has been going now for about 2 years, 3 years, something like that. But we've really been starting to push hard with it in the last year, 2 years, and finally got up to a little over 5,000 subscribers now. We're getting close to 6. So make sure if you haven't, hit that subscribe button and follow us on all our socials as well. And then if you were listening on iTunes or any of the other podcast platforms, I really appreciate it. And make sure you go and hit that thumbs up button and give us a good review if you can. So other than that, guys, we will talk to you later. See you.